Well, you're joining us live now out on the road. You could see Paolo Bettini at the front of this little group, and let me tell you, if you thought yesterday was going to be the big day, today is so exciting. This is ultra competitive stuff. What has happened today is that we were watching all the way through the day Manolo Sainz. We spoke to Neil Stevens, the director sportif of one of the director sportifs of Liberty Seguros, about what Manolo Sainz had been saying with Marino Lajareta and Stevens in the team meetings last night, and it was, we haven't been able to break Menchov all by himself by attacking at the bottom of a climb. We've got to change our tactics, and boy, have they done that today. They've sent men flying up the road all day, Liberty Seguros. Super tactic, because now look at this. Denis Menchov, Carlos Sastre, Carlos Garcia Quesada. Where is Roberto Heras, you may ask? Well, the answer is he's up the road by nearly a minute ahead of Denis Menchov. He launched a huge attack on the first category climb at the Colo d'Elia, and he was followed by Francisco Mancebo and a number of other riders, but he had a whole fistful of riders up the road who can help him. And Sean, this is a really big, exciting day, isn't it?
Yes, well, it certainly is. It's been exciting right from the word go. We had riders attacking all the time, and as you said, I think we had groups going out of the bunch, and quite big ones, groups of 13 riders, and at one time there was a group of 23 riders, and there was always some of the Liberty Seguros riders trying to go away in these groups, which was a change of tactic from what we've been seeing right through the Vuelta, and he has put riders up the road, and what we're seeing now at the moment is part of the group that was already up the road. The riders from Liberty Seguros and Heras, of course, attacking on that climb, and then joining up with his teammates and really put Menchov in difficulty. As we see here, the leading group is quite big, and Menchov is isolated at the moment. He had there were 3 riders with Menchov, Sastre, Carlos Garcia Quesada and Van Bon. Van Bon have disappeared, so they're down to 3, so it's going to be a big task for Menchov to come back here.
Well, these are the interesting times in racing, aren't they? Van Bon, a Dutchman, riding for a Belgian team, but I don't know how much of an alliance there is there, but Van Bon driving away at the front, trying to help Menchov. He's the only guy in that little group of 4 who was helping. Carlos Sastre's got nothing to gain by helping Denis Menchov. Neither's Carlos Garcia Quesada. Menchov being really forced. The first time we've seen him look in discomfort, trying to chase down Heras, who was really going for it with a number of riders ahead of him. Bellocchi was there, Caruso was there, Scarponi was there, and I think the other one was probably Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, who was in a break as well. And this is the Denis Menchov group trying to limit that lead. Well, this is really exciting stuff. It's all blown to pieces. It goes to show the strength of Liberty Seguros as a team, though, Sean, because Denis Menchov doesn't have a team, does he? No,
he hasn't a team for this sort of race at all, and I think the Rabobank, didn't expect Menchov to be going so well. I think everybody is really surprised, including ourselves. Of course, Liberty coming here with the 3 times winner in Heras, our team really built around him, and we can see today, the strength of that team. We have been seeing it all through the past 2 weeks, but definitely today a change of tactic, and it's working out very well so far.
Working out very well indeed. This is the leading group with Joaquin Rodriguez in it. Joaquin Rodriguez again taking points in the mountains classification to eat into the advantage that Eladio Jimenez had sneaked up on him yesterday. He was still ahead in the mountains classification. Stage 15 here on the Vuelta a España, and it's really blown to pieces. All of a sudden the race has come to life after days and days and days of Denis Menchov following in the wheels and watching Roberto Heras, 3 times winner of this race. It's blown to pieces. Liberty Seguros have had to change their tactics. They couldn't ride Menchov off their wheel in a mass attack at the bottom of a climb, so they've gone up the road in 1s and 2s, and all of a sudden, bang, Roberto Heras came out on the first category climb of the Colo d'Elia with 50 kilometers to go, and all of a sudden he had 3-4 men up the road who could join up with him, just hang back and join up with him, and they've charged off up the road. They're nearly 1 3/4 minutes ahead of Denis Menchov now. This is the group that was leading the race, including Joaquin Rodriguez, and a lot of Liberty Seguros riders were in here. And now Roberto Heras has bridged across to this gap. There he is in the points jersey. 1 minute and 58 seconds now is the time coming across our headphones from Race Radio. man, Roberto Heras, to this man, Denis Menchov. Just ahead of him is Carlos Sastre, wearing the combined jersey, and Nicky Sorensen is the man in front of that. And it doesn't matter how hard Sorensen tries to pull it along. They almost shed Denis Menchov just now. Menchov is not being able to respond at this time, and they're going to get to the foot, Sean, of the last climb of the day up to Pajares, where so many great battles have been fought in this Vuelta without Menchov on their wheel for once, and they can really storm up it.
Yes, well, certainly the lead group is just too big, as we see here. There's 25 riders with Heras, and that's, you know, worked well for Heras, because he had the teammates up there, but also other riders. And those riders, when we get to the final climb, some of those will go in the attack. So, you know, they will be helping to keep the pace high on the final climb. And of course, Menchov really in trouble here. We see when Nicky Sorensen took to the front there, and Sastre went after him. Menchov seemed to have problems even following Sastre, so I think he's suffering quite big today. And it's the first day that we see him, you know, having problems, because the last days in the mountains he seemed to have followed the final climb, and today just not able to follow that attack from Heras. So I think, yes, he's on a day where he's suffering big time, Menchov.
Away now, just spent. There's nothing he can do anymore. Carlos Garcia is just sitting on the back. He's not going to do anything. Sastre is not going to do anything to help Denis Menchov. Nicky Sorensen inadvertently, by driving in along a little bit, Menchov getting up to the back wheel of Sastre again with an almighty show of effort, has now latched onto the back, where it's so much easier, isn't it, Sean, to ride in the wheel of somebody than to take it from the front. And Menchov was driving it for kilometre after kilometre. He'll be pleased to get on the back wheel of Sastre. That's helping him a little bit.
Yes, definitely. Well, he needs all the help he can get now, and I think it's time is running out for him, because we see the gap there, 152, you know, back from Heras, and also Manchego also really suffering today. He's a further 56 seconds back from Menchov, so he's, you know, really paying the price again today. After yesterday, he was suffering quite a lot, and I think today, you know, this attack by Heras has been a really, you know, magnificent attack, and he's really put a lot of the big favours in problems.
Absolutely magnificent stuff by Manolo Sainz's Liberty Seguros team. Had to change their tactics. Neil Stevens talking to us this morning. We had to change. We had to take the fight to him somehow. We can't shake him. He's a very strong rider. We have to use all our team strength against the fact that he hasn't got one, and attack him. 1 minute 52 seconds. Heras' group back to the leaders group of Denis Menchov. You can see Mancebo and a further 56 seconds down. So Carlos Sastre, of course, working hard in that Menchov group to cement his third place on the podium, put extra time into Mancebo, and that's helping Menchov. But that's a price he's got to pay, isn't it? He's got to do that if he wants to cement his place on the podium, Sean. And Menchov is just hanging in there and benefiting from that.
Yes, well, I think Menchov is after, you know, making a huge effort a bit earlier on, and he's, you know, really paying for that now. He's not recovered from it, and he's, you know, using everybody he can, and we see the CSE Sorensen, and of course Sastre. He will be trying to, you know, keep going as well, but I think Sastre is probably suffering a bit as well, because if he is feeling good, I think he would ride a bit with Menchov, because as we see Manchego really in problems, and if he can put another bit of time into Manchego, well, then a place on the podium. So it's surprising to see that, you know, Sastre's not doing some of the work here.
Well, there is Carlos Sastre looking, he's sitting in third place in that combined jersey. Nicky Sorensen just in front of him, protecting his team leader. Now Denis Menchov forced to come to the front again. You know, if Menchov could do something about this, and it looks increasingly likely that he isn't, he seems to have gathered himself again. He was looking very, flustered earlier. If he can do this, he will show he is a truly great champion. If he can get himself back together. Sorensen coming towards the front. So many battles been played out on this Pajares climb over the years in the Vuelta. Riders like Jimenez, Fuente, way back in the 60s and 70s, Treba, all the way back into the 1930s and 40s, Barramontes, of course, Francis Perez, all one up here.
And as we see Sastre there, he's having problems also following Nicky Sorensen. I think he's, you know, suffering big time today as well. And yesterday, of course, we see him, you know, make that huge effort, and a long ways out on the very slopes of Lagos. He attacked with about 10 k's to go, and I think he's paying a bit of the price for that also today. So not only Menchov suffering big time, Sastre also, and of course Manchego.
Just under 15 kilometers to go, though, and the tempo beginning to show on the face of Roberto Heras. He knows what it's like to suffer on this thing. He's only got one man left with him now, though. Caruso, Avicioso and Bellocchi have gone off the front, and it's this super domestique Michele Scarponi in his trademark yellow shoes ahead of Roberto Heras again, tapping away the rhythm. He's been so faithful, Sean. He's done such a fabulous job for Roberto Heras, despite the fact they couldn't attack Menchov. He's been there every single day, last man.
Yes, he's doing a magnificent job, and he's having a great Vuelta, because we've seen him every day. He's the last one to be with Heras, and setting a magnificent pace on the climbs every day. And once again today, the last man again, and really just turning it on there. And we see that group of Heras is just blown to pieces, and that tells you, how the speed is up and everybody is suffering. As we see here, they're everywhere in the Menchov group at the moment. We see Sastre is going ahead, leaving Menchov for dead almost. So I think Menchov is really going to lose a lot of time on this final climb.
He's cooked. He's gone, Sean. I think he's blown completely now. He did so much work though down in the valley between the last first category climb of the day, the Colla d'Elia. And then there's a sort of gentle rise really in that out from the bottom of the valley, and it was actually on the slopes, the descent of the Colla d'Elia, where he just couldn't descend as quickly as Roberto Heras, and Heras then started to eke out his advantage. By the time he got to the bottom, all his lads were at the bottom waiting for him, and they've just put masses of time into Menchov going up towards Pajarets today, and he's just blown himself out completely, chasing them down. Still digging in there. Will he be able to collect it together and limit his losses, Sean?
I don't think so. We see that he's suffering quite a lot in this as we come into the last 20 kilometers, and it seems like that he's really suffering big time. If he's leaving Sastre go ahead, I think that it's going to be really difficult for him to limit his losses at this moment. We see it's over 2 minutes. I think he's going to lose more than that, because Heras, I think he's going to take up the front not too far. When Scarponi, of course, pulls over, well, then it'll be Heras who will start setting the pace, and he knows like this is his chance to win the Tour of Spain outright, and he's really going to charge up the last 5 or 6 kilometers of this climb.
How much can Menchov, if Menchov completely blows on this slopes, how much can he actually lose? It's a very, very steep climb. It's a difficult climb. It's not, well, it's in total length from the bottom of the valley, it's about 35 kilometers into the last 15 now. It's a nasty, nasty, vicious rise, and Pajarets is one of those climbs where people attack. In history anyway, historically they attack and attack and attack and can fly up this thing if they get the rhythm right. How much could he lose to Sastre even, who's only 1 minute 50 seconds down? Well,
that is the thing, he could lose also the place to Sastre in the general classement, but I think Sastre is also suffering a bit. We see there on a number of times when Sorensen was setting the pace for him, he just wasn't able to follow, and I think that tells us that he's also suffering quite a bit. So I'd not be too worried that Sastre will take a lot of time from Menchov, but the big danger up front is how much time are they going to lose to Heras. I think is going to grow from here to the finish, and we see Scarponi still pulling on the front here, doing a fabulous job, and down to 5 in the leading group of Heras at the moment.
2 minutes and 32 seconds is the gap now between Roberto Heras in this group here and Denis Menchov. Menchov, it is slowly slipping through with that iron fist that he's put around it in the last week or so. Sastre blowing hard, hiding himself behind those dark glasses once again. Carlos Garcia Quesada is with him. He's the big gainer as well. He sat on the back of the group for a long, long time. Launched a speculative attack to see how strong everybody was, and it was Nicky Sorensen and Carlos Sastre who brought him back in again. Well, this is just wonderful stuff. Between Heras and Mancebo, just coming over the headphones, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Oh, this is superb stuff. Francisco Lara, the young Spaniard riding for T-Mobile on the back there. Samuel Sanchez again, buoyed up no doubt by his wonderful win the other day, unfortunately at the expense of Ardila. But this man, this is a lonely place to be, Sean. You're the race leader, you're wearing the leader's jersey. What's it like to be wearing a leader's jersey and isolated in this sort of position?
Well, it's very difficult, to rally around here and keep them to keep the morale, because you start losing it, and when you haven't gotten the legs, well, then it really works on the head, and it's been doing that for quite a while with Menchov, and of course he could see it coming before the Heras attack, sending riders up the road from the Liberty Seguros. It was the one you could see beforehand, and he certainly had seen that of his team, but just not able to react to the attack of Heras.
Still Michele Scarponi doing all the work on the front. Lara, Sanchez and David Blanco are the three riders with Heras and Scarponi now. Francisco Lara, I think, is just hiding in there to do what he can. Sanchez is another rider who's a bit opportunistic. He's sticking in there. David Blanco, wearing 48, just ahead of him in the Comunica Valenciana colours. He's not going to do a thing to help Roberto Heras and Michele Scarponi, because his man, Carlos Garcia Quesada, very high up on the overall, just behind him. Denis Menchov putting absolutely everything in that he can, and he's bringing slowly. He may be doing a mancebo on Carlos Sastre here. He's eating up the gap that had opened up between the two. About 10 seconds now, the gap surely. Looks like he may be rallying a little bit on this slightly less steep gradient.
Yes, it looks like that. He's holding Sastre. He's not, losing a huge amount. But I think, both of them are in the same boat, really. I think both of them, are quite tired at this moment, and we see that in the valley. And it's going to be a battle, just between Sastre and the race leader, of course. Will he be able to pull back Sastre? I think he can do that. He can hold Sastre to a limit of the amount of time he can take from him. But I think Heras definitely, is going to just take more and more time out of him. As we see the last time check, 2 minutes 36 back to Menchov. So really a really bad moment, a bad day for Menchov.
Just under the 12. I'm sorry about the picture breakup. The weather has been absolutely appalling at the top. It's raining again now. It was a huge amount of fog even 20 minutes ago. A big bank of fog came across the top of the finish here and just blown away. At least the rain isn't going down the slopes any further at the moment. They have about 12 kilometers to go. It was the last respite the riders are going to have, because that is the last flat section, or flattish section, of this climb. It goes up to about 7-8% and then just tails off very slightly, 4 or 5%. And then the last 3 kilometers, Sean, an absolute killer if you're in trouble already. 11% right up towards the top, then flattens off in the last 500 meters or so. There's a hard right swing. They almost double back on themselves. It's quite flat up towards the top, but the last 2 kilometers are real murder for somebody who's suffering.
Yes, well, definitely. It's one of the again, with yesterday's Lagos or Covadonga, this is a really a serious climb today, and it's the day when the Vuelta could be won and lost, and we're definitely seeing that. And we've been hearing about that for the last 2 weeks since the raid started. It was going to be the 2 days the most important, and they're certainly showing that today. Well,
this mountain has been the venue for so many showdowns over the years. Back historically in the history of the Vuelta España, when the Spaniards wanted to attack the big name foreign riders who were being brought in, the Eddy Merckxes, the Jacques Anquetil's, the Rudy Altigs, who weren't great climbers, and so on. They were, well, not that Anquetil and Merckx weren't great climbers, but they weren't pure climbers. The Spaniards pride themselves on being pure climbers, and this is one of the venues that they chose to attack great foreign champions or foreign leaders of the race. And once again, it's proving this way. A triple champion here, Roberto Heras, and you're seeing teamwork from Liberty Seguros at its best. I'll tell you what, Sean, I hope that Manolo Saiz has got an extension contract on Michele Scarponi, because he has just been awesome this year, and there'll be a lot of director sportifs trying to buy out of his contract for this. Well, Mancebo losing out terribly again today. Did you manage to catch the gap there, Sean?
4:10 back to Manchebo, I heard, which is extraordinary to see that the gap has grown that much. So if that's correct coming over radio too, well, Manchebo is really having a bad day today.
Terrible day for Mancebo. Terrible day for our colleague David Duffield, who had him as a podium or even a winner of this year's Vuelta. It's slipping away from him. Look at the awful weather we've had up here today. Carlos Sastre, along with Carlos Garcia Quesada, they must be working together in some way. They're pulling out even more from Denis Menchov. Just as he thought he was coming back, he's gone again. Can he rally himself to try and peg back Carlos Sastre? Nearly 30 seconds the gap between Sastre and Menchov. And up the road, nearly 3 minutes ahead now, Michele. Way up the overall today. Scarponi is the rider there, being passed by, well, tried to be passed by Denis Menchov. It's not going to happen. Oh, this is terrible for Menchov. He doesn't mind riding in this sort of horrible weather. Winner of the Tour of the Basque Country. He's a very good rider in this sort of high hills and bad weather. I think that's Luis Pasamontes, in fact, who's on a long break. We're just being passed. Well, it's Jorge Garcia. In fact, there's the rider from Relax for the Lambrera. And Denis Menchov still in there, still plugging away. He's such a strong rider. Is anybody going to help him, Sean?
Well, I don't think anybody that he's catching up with, as we see here, they're not able, because they have been all in the group of Heras and they've been just shelled out of that group. So I think everybody is, you know, really suffering here, and I don't think they're going to be able to give any aid to Menchov whatsoever.
Well, one rider we haven't seen, and we are unsure, to be honest, whether he's still up the road or has been swallowed back, because we haven't seen him at all. We've been concentrating on the battle between Heras, Sastre, Menchov, Mancebo. Alexander Bocharov, the rider from Credit Agricole, did go up the road first. Whether he's still up there, we don't know. I think he's probably been taken back, Sean.
Yes, I think we did not see it on our screen when he was taken back, but this looks to be the motorbike one. So.
And they've shed Samuel Sanchez and Francisco Lara. Only David Blanco is sitting behind them. Or is Sanchez still in there? Oh, Sanchez is still in there, I beg your pardon. Just sheltered by the two Liberty Seguros riders. 10 kilometers, and look at the gap. Look at the gap. 3 minutes and 10 seconds now is the gap between Heras and this man. He's lost that jersey, maybe for good. Look at the pain on his face. If Roberto Heras keeps eating into the time at this rate, he's never going to take that back in the time trial, Sean.
No, certainly not. You know, he's just losing his hand over foot here, and you know, it's just growing all the time, and it's just going to keep on growing because he's really suffering. We see on his face there, you know, he's on the limit, and with the distance they have to go on this very difficult climb, he's going to, you know, lose a lot more time, and I think, you know, it's over for him to win this race now. Heras looks like that he's going to, you know, lay the foundation to win this Vuelta once again.
Marvellous stuff. Well, we've got three fairly long days still to come. Nearly 167 kilometers, nearly 200k, 196, and then 147, and then next Saturday a 38.9 kilometer time trial. That's never long enough for this man, well, for that man Denis Menchov, to try and take back some time. He can take back some, but not all of it. Sastre continue to ride ahead with Carlos Garcia Quesada. 47 seconds now the gap between Denis Menchov and himself. He's virtually cut in half the advantage that Menchov had over him. He's still got to gain a lot more. He's still got time. And what do you think the words from Roberto Heras to Michele Scarponi are here Sean Heras has come alongside Scarponi, had a bit of a word. They've still got under 10 kilometres to go. What would you be saying if you were in Heras' position with Scarponi still pounding away at the front there?
Well, I think he's going to try and keep Scarponi with him as long as possible, and maybe just take it down a notch or two on the pace setting, not as strong, and try and go on a bit further, because he needs Scarponi to take him much further up this climb. And we've seen that yesterday, for example. Heras was alone much too early, so I think he will definitely try and keep Scarponi on the front. As we see, there's 7 kilometres to go. And Scarponi is after doing a magnificent job, and still going to I think ride another a bit up this climb.
Carlos Sastre riding with Carlos Garcia Quesada, and his brother Adolfo in there as well. Adolfo Garcia Quesada, that's I think that's Paolo Bettini in there as well. Well, I never. Bettini just being passed by Sastre. Sastre is putting time into Denis Menchov with every pedal stroke. Menchov isolated completely by himself. Nobody willing to stay with him and help him. Nobody there to guide him up, even for 200, 300 meters, to give him some sort of respite. Jersey, and that is that must be going through his mind. How long till I get to the top? This is not going to be on my shoulders anymore. How mentally tough do you have to be, Sean, to just keep going and not think, I'm losing it, I'm losing this race, one of the biggest races in the world?
Well, it's very difficult, because he was riding so well. We see him yesterday there. He seemed to be following quite comfortably on the final climb, and we were just everybody was thinking, well, it's going to be really difficult for Heras to shake him off the leader of the classement. And what a turnabout today. We see Menchov really suffering big time there, and he's been suffering for quite a long time. You just have to keep working at it, and hopefully to limit your losses. And I think he's going to be thinking now, well, the podium is a place where I can still get on, and Sastre up the road, he's going to be working at that and try and limit his time lost to Sastre. And he knows down deep now that Heras is going to take over the race leader's jersey by a long shot.
Deep down in his soul, he knows that it's slipping out of his grasp. Maybe by the time he gets to the hotel tonight, he'll be able to think, I have some days still, I have the time trial. Am I able to sneak away and attack? I very much doubt it. But there'll always be some hope in the back of his mind. This is the Sastre group. Coming over the line, that's Atienza, the rider from Cofidis. Pereiro is in there. Bettini. The rider from Fassa Bortolo is Pimienta. 6 kilometers to go then for the leaders. Still Scarponi on the front. Incredible riding by this man. He's been talked about for such a long time, and what a rider. Michele Scarponi, the Italian riding for a Spanish team, came from, I think, Acron Saponi a couple of years ago. And he was riding in the Tour of Spain a couple of years ago. What a climber. What a climber indeed. That's Pimienta. Fassa rider beginning to suffer. That's Carlos Garcia Quesada. In fact, Pimienta's latched onto the back of the Sastre group. Oh, Scarponi. That's it for Scarponi. I think he's had it. No more for him. What a ride. Chapeau, as David Duffield would say. I take my hat off to you, Michele. I'm a big fan already, and that has just cemented you in a pantheon of super domestiques. That is a wonderful, wonderful ride by that man. There will be checkbooks flapping around next season if he isn't nailed down to the floor already by Manello Sainz. Now it's for Roberto Heras to do all by himself. Will any of these guys help him, Sean? Will Samuel Sanchez help him? Is he looking for a double victory? Certainly not that man, David Blanco Rodriguez. He's not going to help, is he?
No, I don't think he's going to get much help from those two men he has, but he's actually losing them already. As we see here, there's a gap appearing between Heras and just not able to follow. Sanchez is just going to try and follow and see can he get back into the wheel of Heras, but both of them are really on the river as well, as they say, and looks like Heras I think will go on and just pull more time out of Menchov and everybody else, and he's riding for the win in the Tour of Spain, and that's going to give him a huge amount of fight. And when you're fighting for a win in a big tour like that, it's going to give him so much extra. I think he's going to go on and take the stage victory also today.
I think he is. This man's doing a great ride again as well. I think much better than yesterday. Carlos Sastre putting great wadges of time into Denis Menchov and Carlos Caceres. What a great ride by him as well. What can you say? I mean, you look behind you, Sean. You've been in this position, I'm sure, in many races. You look behind you and you've shed everybody who you've passed and everybody you wish to shed, and there's clear road almost behind you. That must give you a huge boost as well.
Yes, it certainly does, and even you're suffering big time, but when you're suffering up front is a totally different situation. The situation between Heras and Menchov here, for example, he's out and he's out the rear as such, and he's losing so much. He's going to lose the race leader and maybe lose a place to Sastre as well, so that is very difficult. But when you're up front, you're suffering big time, but it's a different sort of suffering. You can go that much deeper because you're going for so much in the race, the overall, as I said, and also the stage victory. So there's everything to right here for Heras.
Tactically, Sean, this race today, this stage today up to Pajares, one of the really historic climbs of the Vuelta, has been a delight to behold, hasn't it? It's been a thing of beauty tactically. Manolo Sainz and the boys know that they've tried their main tactic, it hasn't worked. They've just gone completely in the opposite direction and isolated Menchov with nobody around him to help him, no wheel to hang on to. What a joy to behold. Great tactics.
Yes, well, it's a tactic. I think we were talking about that yesterday and this morning. I think they had to change the tactic because we see the Liberty Seguros riders in the last mountaintop finishes. They just rode 20 k's from the last climb, just up the speed and just blew everybody out on the bottom slopes of the climb. But Heras was isolated as well too much, far too early on the climbs, and he had to do all the work in the last day, 10 kilometers himself, and just not able to get rid of Menchov. Where today they changed the tactic totally, and it was a tactic that you could see coming, and I think all the riders in the general classement, and including Menchov, they see that one today, because when we see Liberty Seguros sending riders up in the break, which was totally change of tactic from what's been seen over the last over 2 weeks, but just Menchov, I think that he had a bad day as well and just not able to follow Heras, and Heras, I think, by far the strongest man in the race today.
By far the strongest, well, maybe with the exception of Michele Scarponi, the two of them, what a combination, a real killer combination, these two. This just gets steeper in the last 4 kilometers for Roberto Heras. Not that it's going to bother him, he's buoyed up, he's going to fly up there as if he had wings. Carlos Sastre, just look at the amount of effort he's putting in as well. Terrific ride by this man. 2:30 the gap between Heras and Sastre. This is right on a very steep part of the circuit or the hill today, and Heras beginning to suffer. Nothing wrong there, I hope. Just looking like he was coming to a hole. Well, that's why. 14%. Oh my word. This has been such a day. We haven't seen a day like this in the Vuelta so far. And what a display of attacking riding by so many riders today. It's blown to pieces. This is what bike racing's all about. Not only man pitting themselves against man, but look at the elements, look at the rain that's been coming down here. It's been foggy up at the finish, not been able to see a thing. I hope the blanket of, the blanket of fog is blown away. There was a time before we came on air to you, we thought we're not even going to be able to see who comes out the fog. It would have been like Stephen Roche crossing the line when Phil Liggett saw him years and years ago. Remember pegging back Pedro Delgado in the Tour de France? And Phil turned out and said, "It's Roche! It's Stephen Roche!" Oh, it would have been marvellous, but thankfully you'll be able to see everything. Oh, Roberto Heras cycling his way up this Pajares mountain to a momentous stage victory, and really setting the seal, I think, without any more disasters happening to him, setting the seal on another victory in the Vuelta a España. A marvellous ride, Sean.
Yes, well, I think he's really done a magnificent ride today, because coming from where he came out of the bunch, it's a very difficult one to do, and as I said, he had the teammates up the road, so a perfect situation for him to carry him to the bottom of this final climb. And then we see Scarponi just doing a magnificent job, and as we see here on this climb, it's 16-17%, like it's an amazingly steep climb, and it looks like he's suffering, but when you see the gradient there, 17%, that just tells you like everybody's going to be just struggling big time. And if you arrive under pressure and tired, and Menchov looked very much suffering, he's going to really have problems here.
The Spanish fans out in their thousands to cheer home the man from Bejar. He's such a quiet rider. He's quiet in his manner, he's quiet in his training, but he's making a huge bang here today. Samuel Sanchez, the only man within even looking distance of him, 12 seconds behind. He's gone past the nastiest part of the climb today, up to 17%. Remember, this Pajares climb has been such a battleground for huge attacks in the past by flighty Spanish climbers. Bajamontes is attacked here. So as Treba Fuente was a man who attacked it over and over and over. Jimenez, Francis Perez years ago. Going right back into the 1930s and 40s, all the way through the history of this Vuelta a España. This mountain has played a huge part. And today, once again, we've seen the collapse of a man holding the golden jersey. A leader from outside of the Spanish borders is being attacked by the Spanish climber, Roberto Heras. It's amazing to think that just 2 or 3 days ago we were wondering whether this man would make it to the end. His 15 stitches in that knee. When Jakob Pill hit the deck 2 days ago, he went colliding into the back of the bike, fell off, a chainring soared effectively through the top of his knee. He had temporary staples put in it, and then 15 stitches, 10 on the top of the kneecap, 5 down the side. And look at him now. This is extraordinary, Sean. It will go down in history as one of the greatest single rides by a man in the Vuelta.
Yes, well, of course, he's been the big favourite going into this race, and he hasn't had it easy. As you said, that crash a number of days ago, and I think he's rallied around magnificently well, and putting in the performance today. I think this will be one of his greatest victories in the Tour of Spain. He's already won 3, of course, and he's on the road to possibly winning a 4 at the moment. We also see further down there, we see Carlos Garcia Casado. He's after going away from Sastre, and in the general class as well, he's 5th there at 5:37, so he's going to move up as well in the general classement. So a lot of movement here, and depends on what happens with Menchov, how much time he's going to lose on this final climb. So we could see him losing a place in the podium altogether if he really suffers on the steep part of this one.
Well, I think he's certainly going to slip behind Sastre. Sastra's going to move up into to 2nd overall, I would suggest today, Sean, because he's taken a massive amount out of Denis Menchov today. This is the final 500 meters then. This is that hard swing right. Carlos Sastre struggling up the 17%, but keep an eye on the top right-hand side of your screen. Right-hand corner, shall I say. This is a man born aloft by wings today. What a wonderful ride by Roberto Heras. He's going to take the victory today and the gold leader's jersey. 4 minutes and 25 seconds the gap between Heras and Menchov. That is extraordinary. He's blown completely the Russian. Extraordinary. Under the last kilometre and a half for this man. It's all flat up here now, though. There we are, confirmation. It's not anything like the gradient we've seen earlier. Great ride by Carlos Sastre as well. Has timed it perfectly. Kim Anderson, the director sportif, has said go for it. went out with Nicky Sorensen, did an awful lot of work, and Denis Menchov, they made Denis Menchov do the work in the valley, didn't they? And that was key.
Yes, well, certainly, you know, the plan worked, you know, to exactly as we had set out to do, and you know, the getting Menchov, you know, on his own in the valley almost. Well, that was the situation that they were just, you know, hoping would happen, and I don't think they could have planned it. I think if you had asked them to sign a contract for that last night, they would definitely have signed for that in the Liberty Seguros team. You know, the way the tactic works so perfectly today.
More woe piled on woe for Denis Menchov. Oscar Sevilla has just gone past him. That won't be a welcome sight. Sevilla not climbing as well as Menchov all week, but even worse than that, Francisco Mancebo, we hear on the radio, is right behind Denis Menchov now. He was some minute behind him. He's gained on it. Menchov just falling like a stone down the order. If Mancebo could put a minute or so into Menchov by the top, he will be off the podium, Sean, completely off the podium.
Yes, well, that is going to be the big battle for Menchov now, to hold the place on the podium, because you know, he's just losing it. Just, you know, he's losing massive times now, and as we come into the steeper part, if you've, you know, really suffered, and I think, you know, his energy levels are going to be really low, so, you know, the time you would lose on the real steep part of the climb would be massive. And when Manchego, you know, comes up to him, and if he goes by him, well, that will be another, you know, a hammer blow for Menchov, because, you know, you see him going by, and he's also a general classement rider who've never been ahead of Menchov in this race. Really, he's always been struggling to stay with him, and you know, again for the morale, it's going to be a really hard one for him to keep on working at it. So it will be interesting to see if Menchov can hold on, and maybe, you know, hold on to a place at the podium at all today.
That's the big question. Race Radio telling us now that Mancebo's gone past Denis Menchov. Well, as our esteemed colleague David Duffield would say, as Roberto Heras goes on to the final kilometre banner, the man with a hammer has come and hit Denis Menchov today. Well, it's more like he's been hit with a steam hammer today. Denis Menchov sliding further and further backwards. He's got to keep it together. He's got to keep his morale together. There's nothing he can do now except keep going up. Keep going up. He can't get off the bike. He's got to keep pedaling one stroke after another at his own pace, and see people come past him. He's got to ignore that and keep going. Well, he may be wearing the points jersey today, but it won't be for long, because within about 10 minutes or so, this man will be mounting the podium as he rides into the fog. Maybe we won't be able to see him on the podium, but he'll be putting on a bright, glowing gold jersey, because he's going to take the victory today, and with it, here at the foggy top of Pajares, the lead of this year's Vuelta a España. What a magnificent ride by him and his team, not least of which Michele Scarponi, the coming back guy, Joseba Bellocchi, who just absolutely buried himself. The pain on his face was enormous. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, a man retiring at the end of this season, put in a huge amount of effort. Gianpaolo Caruso gave it everything. Coming out of the fog then, up towards the finish. They will be well aware on the screens that somebody is coming up here. Let's have a look at this. Oh, it's a shame we can't see the absolute joy on his face too well, but what a marvelous ride. Sean, today it had to happen. There had to be an attack today, but I never expected something of this magnitude.
No, well, I think, you know, there was nobody really expecting that, because when you look back at the past days, it didn't seem like that, you know, they could do that much damage to Menchov. And, you know, you see the time there, you know, almost 5 hours on the bike in these sort of conditions. You know, what a day by the Liberty Seguros and by Heras, of course. And I think, as I said earlier, it will go down as one of his greatest, you know, stages, and his greatest victory probably in the Tour of Spain.
Very probably his greatest victory. This is Carlos Garcia Quesada. This is a great time. Marvelous. Was that David Blanco? Oh, I think that might be Blanco, in fact, coming over the line. Check on the far left-hand side. The time we want to see is, that's Blanco coming over the line. We want to look out for 45. He's Carlos Garcia Quesada. He was with brother Adolfo Garcia Quesada, number 44 for a long time. Just look at that clock ticking away already. Here is Garcia Quesada. He's only coming up to the 1 kilometer banner now, so shows how far Roberto Heras was able to cycle away from everybody. But this man, huge attack. Marvellous, marvellous riding, and this whole team, Sean, has had such a fabulous Vuelta. Vincenti Belda must be incredibly pleased. There must be questions, surely, about how and why you qualify for the Pro Tour. If a team like this can put in this much effort and have this much success for a Grand Tour.
Yes, well, certainly I think we've seen them there the last number of days, like they have been very much to the fore, and of course in the team classement that gives you the answer, because they're leading that by 15 minutes from Phonak, and you have to have got good riders that can throw in good performances every day in the mountain stages, but also in the time trials, and in the flatter days as well they have to be up there. So I think there's a lot of questions to be answered. Will they get a place in the Pro Tour for the following season?
Okay, well, Carlos Garcia Quesada coming up to the line. We'll start the stopwatch. The gap between Garcia Quesada and Francisco Mancebo, currently lying in fourth, was about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Is that right? 3 minutes and 10 seconds, something like that. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Let's see how he comes over. Well, let's say 3:10. If he's got 3 minutes on Mancebo, then he's going to move up above Mancebo, even assuming that Menchov falls down lower. Well, the fog rolling in again. Not even 10 minutes ago, it was clear up at the finish here. The fog has been rolling in and out all day. The rain has been lashing down up here and then drizzling and then more lashing rain. Now just fog and a little bit of drizzle. Forget Ardila, he's not the one we're interested in. Is that Garcia Quesada? Let's put the stopwatch on anyway. And the stopwatch is going. Coming over in dribs and drabs. We need to see the number of that rider from Comunica Valenciana who came across, and I think it probably was. Can't remember any other riders further up the road from Comunica Valenciana. 30 seconds the gap so far. That's the riders. There is Carlos Sastre coming over. Well, he's taken only 35 seconds out of Carlos Sastre. So Sastre's place safe against Garcia Quesada as well. 45 seconds, 46 seconds now the gap. Well, we're looking for where Francisco Mancebo is going to come in. He's still a long way back. 4 minutes and 8 seconds is the gap. 15. Where is Denis Menchov? Come on, director, there's time for the replays later. That's not what we need to see. We need to see the riders coming over the line. Extraordinary amount of time put into Denis Menchov today, Sean.
Yes, certainly, just really, took the race in his hands today with the team, and just finished it off so magnificently on the final climb. Did not lose any time at all, as we see Menchov coming over the line.
Yep, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I think, is the gap back to Mancebo. So Mancebo just about stays ahead of Garcia Quesada by about a minute. Is that Tom Danielson? Oh, Tom Danielson's gone past Denis Menchov. My word. It's a Pimienta coming home for Fassa Bortolo. Where is Denis Menchov? Here he is. Here's the man who was in gold, being collected by a load of other riders. Mercado, I think, coming across there. Look at the expression, the pained expression on his face, Sean. That's the first time we've seen him in suffering.
Yes, well, I think we've seen that expression for quite a while on the earlier slopes of the climb. He was really suffering, and you see the gap there, 5:17 down on Heras. A huge amount of time lost, and certainly any chance of winning the race now, I think it's just out of it, because Heras have just got too much of an advantage over the rest, and in the final time trial, he unless he has some mechanical problem now or sickness, I think he's going to go on and take this tour once again.